Then I just started the recording, and I will just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
I am loving this.
Okay. Probably recommend just amping speed out of spawn. That gets your team to the point sooner. It's gonna give your team some, kind of allow them to set up when you get there. So amping speed, getting them there sooner, probably is gonna be very helpful for them.
Check this out. Yeah, time to heal up. Get back. Double time.
I'm being attacked.
Healing boo.
All right.
Stop.
Minor note: watch reloading. Right, just anytime there's nothing to do, nobody shoot at. You have a lull in time. You want to reload. So here we're at like 4 bullets on the bottom right, and we're just kind of sitting around. So that's probably just a good time to reload. Nothing major though.
Nothing's gonna stop. Push off. Up the volume. Speed boost.
All right, possibly something to discuss in a moment. Well, keep taking a look.
See these through.
Targets neutralized. Rocket barrage incoming.
Oh,
Alright.
yeah. Push off. Yeah, let's move it, people.
Very nice.
Watch your back.
I could use some assistance.
You feel that? Push off.
Oh, so that worked.
All right, so generally speaking, there's a couple times. So when it comes to healing versus knowing when to heal versus speed, you're not terrible at it. Of course, like I'm not saying that that's the case here. But there are some times where I'm noticing that we're a little bit off on when we should be using each. So generally speaking, it's very simple when you should be using each. Anytime you need to go somewhere fast, you go on speed. Anytime you're not and you're just sitting there, then you're on healing, right? And that's for you or your team, right? So anytime you or your teammates are trying to go somewhere fast, you're on speed. Anytime you're not, you're on healing. And then you can also heal if people like really need healing. That's another case where you can heal. But sometimes we'll like be moving around, like we'll be trying to go from point A to point B and we're not on speed and like we don't need healing. And then like sometimes we'll, yeah, so that's the main one I'm saying is like sometimes we'll lack the speed when maybe we should be speeding around a little bit more. But like I said, it's not a major thing. Here Reaper ends up blossoming on top of us. Here booping him away probably could help because that boops him around the shield, can help get him off of you faster here if we were to boop him. And then additionally, probably not a good idea to start the beat after he's already started blossoming, because at that point you're just dead. You're not going to be able to beat fast enough, so it just ends up wasting the ultimate. And then I don't think we need to go like super in depth on the on like anything like ult tracking or anything of that sort. But here, if you might think the Reaper has his ultimate and you see him wraithing into the middle of your team, might consider the fact that he has Blossom and maybe just speed away from him really quickly. Like I said, boop him away. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Heal up.
All right, let's talk about wall riding really quickly. So, once again, you seem to be doing like decent at this, though there is a lot of room for improvement at wall riding. Now, generally speaking, you as Lucio, essentially, unless you're standing still and you're not really going anywhere, you pretty much want to be wall riding anytime you're ever moving anywhere, right? Even if that is for even if you're moving like 5 meters, right? Like even if you're just going 2 inches to the side, right? You want to be wall riding because that gives you a speed boost and it gets you there faster, right? So if we're just going from here to there, rather than just walking it, right, which is gonna be pretty slow, we can just really quickly hop on the wall and then we've just gotten there much faster. So let's talk about, like, we'll talk about how you can wall ride better, but firstly, let's just talk about, like, a couple more reasons why wall riding is good. Wall riding is also good because it gives you a lot more survivability. The faster you go, the faster you get to where you want to be, which is gets you, allows you to help your team more, maybe get you some more kills. It also means that you're going to be harder to shoot and kill because the faster you go, harder you are to hit. Additionally, like I said, that opens up for more opportunities for maybe you to capitalize an opportunity to get a boop. Maybe you get to clean up a kill if you swoop in really fast while riding. And then also just being higher up, like on walls, can also make it harder for people to shoot at you because it means that they have to look up. It means that you get further away from them, and the further away you are, the harder you are to hit, as well as just the less damage you're doing because of fall off damage. So all to say, whenever you get the chance, even if it's for one single half a second, you want to wall ride, right? So wall riding's great, and let's just talk about how you can wall ride a little bit more effectively. Now just to check, you are on PC, yeah, or were you on a console?
Yeah, I'm on PC.
You're on PC, okay. Just double checking that. So when it comes to wall riding, right? Pretty much there's a couple steps to good wall riding. Firstly, whenever you're wall riding, you should probably be speeding, because if you are wall riding, you're probably going somewhere, right? Unless you're just, unless you're just sitting up in a corner or something, you're probably using wall riding to, like I said before, go somewhere, because it is useful for the speed. So anytime you are on the wall, you should probably be speeding, even if it's just for heal, speed, heal, right? Something like that, right? Like you're just speeding for that second that you're on the wall, right? Now, additionally, you're going to pretty much want to be spam jumping while you are wall riding, as this will be easier than trying to hold it down. It kind of is the best way for Lucio to grip the wall, because a lot of times when you're wall riding, notice how I'm only touching each individual surface for a second, and then I'm swapping to another surface. So spamming that jump button is going to allow me to go from surface to surface, and then going from surface to surface makes it harder for me to hit. Also, it's going to speed me up and make me go faster, whereas if I just hold it down, you notice how it kind of, I slow down a little bit. So that's going to be why you want to go from surface to surface, faster, harder to hit. So spam jumping rather than holding it down like this is going to be better. That's not to say you can never do this, but it's just usually spamming it and going for walls is going to be superior. Not in all circumstances. So speed, spam jump. Then when it comes to wall riding, you are going to make sure that you're holding W. You're not going to use any of your side buttons. You're not going to press left. You're not going to press right. You're not going to press backwards. You can't. Not to say you can never. Once again, this is just general best practices, and you can use those if the situation calls for it. So, like, let's say you're wall riding backwards, right? You can hold the S key instead, right? That sort of thing. But you don't want to be like holding your A and D, right, a ton. You just want to press W as you're going through, and then you move around by using your camera. So you use your camera to adjust how you're moving. That means, like, so I'll just demonstrate, right? I'm just holding W, using my camera as I'm wall riding around, and then that allows me to adjust the direction that I am going. So, finally, just when it comes to wall riding, note that, in case you weren't already aware, when you're going up stuff, you want to be looking up, because this gets you upwards faster when you're looking up. And then if you're trying to drop down, you want to look down, because that will drop you faster and get you below. Even if you're free falling, you want to look down so you can kind of get below if possible. So it'll just kind of allow you to drop faster while wall riding and whatnot. So because it follows the same lines of you're moving where you're aiming, right? So I'm looking up, going up faster, looking down, and then that's how I drop easier, and also see where you're going when you're dropping. So any questions within that?
I don't think so.
Okay, sounds good. So yep, wall ride as often as possible. And just, even if it's hopping on it for half a second, because so far within the game that you're in, you're wall riding, but maybe it's a little bit like it's oh, that's a competitive play, Nepal. That's in the wrong lobby. We were on Ilios in it was in arcade game.
Quick play classic.
Quick, okay.
Arriving at Ilios, ready for battle.
That's not you. There we go.
Yeah, let's pick it. Oh,
Okay, so we're walking back from spawn.
time to accelerate.
We am speed. That's good. Left side versus right side here. Which has more surfaces to ride on?
The left.
Left side. So probably come out wall right on that left side because here we're kind of we don't have a ton to go off of, and then we kind of end up walking a decent bit of that, which just gets us there slower.
Heal up.
Just look to go from object to object to object. You're just looking for things to get, and then you'll get in that habit. Like you'll get into better habits once you play more.
Incoming.
Okay. There. Watch the Echo's health bar, right?
Mm.
She is very low, and
Step
and she's on her own. And as Lucio, you are a decent duelist. You are able to attack people and have a decent chance of winning. That's not to say that you're the best, but you have self healing, you have speed, you have a decent amount of damage. So here, when Echo's like very low HP, probably want to push her and kill. Oh, excuse me, push her and kill her. That way you can get her. Versus here where we just kind of back off.
Incoming.
Yeah,
Okay.
time to heal up.
Adjusting angle of attack.
Some hand here.
Okay, very nice.
I'm feeling some good vibrations.
Get in there.
Push off.
Okay. Watching amp heals here because it's actually not needed currently. So we amp heals, look top left. Every single person on our team is full HP. Right? Amp healing is going to be really necessary when your team either all needs big group healing or somebody needs burst healing, so they're low and they need to get healed up. You can do it when people are in danger. Is when you can use it. Here, just nobody needs healing, so amp healing is not going to do too much in particular. Once again, notice how we're kind of wall riding around and we're kind of on healing rather than being on speed. So a lot of the time here we're just moving slower than we could be.
Systems in overdrive.
So here we end up dying. And this, I would say, is a decently easily preventable death because you can usually look at deaths and think, okay, why did we die? Here we die because we're unaware of our surroundings. We don't hear that there's an Echo who gets nanoed right above our heads, and then she says she yells a voice line and she's dropping on our heads. She yells systems in overdrive, right? And then we can also see, if you're looking right next to your crosshair, you'll see the damage indicators show you the direction from which you're taking damage. So if you're taking damage from the right side here, you might want to be like, oh snap, there's somebody to my right, that sort of idea. So then Echo sneaks up behind us and gets us when, if we were paying attention, possibly we could have been not walking off on our own. We could boop her away. We're also on heals for a little bit there. We're not wall riding as well, right? So a couple minor things we could have done to look to keep her away.
Healing boost.
Fire rocket barrage incoming.
Let's move it, people. Oh yeah.
Okay, notice the amp heals again when everybody's full HP, and also noting the fact that we have never speed amped. So note that, or sorry, take that back. I think we speed amped when we're coming out of spawn, and then that's about the only time we've ever speed amped. So no, right? You amp heals when you need extra heals. You amp speed when you need extra speed. And there are definitely been a couple times where maybe extra speed would have been very useful, and then amp healing isn't going to be needed in any and all circumstances. So watch for those situations here. Everybody's full HP, so amp healing doesn't actually do anything in particular.
Heroes never die.
Okay, so let's rewatch this engagement for a second. All right, so we're on Liana. We amp the speed or the heals, right? We kind of back off for a second here when maybe that's not necessary because it's just, we have heals, we have speed, we're very survivable on Lucio, and it's just an Orisa and an Ana, and Ana's actually low here. So once again, that's why we're seeing a health bar, we're not capitalizing on it, and then we swoop back in. We come back in, we boop the Ana, and then we turn our focus away from the Ana to the Orisa, whereas Ana's still really low and she's off on her own over there. I probably would still focus the Ana. So just a couple inefficiencies. Boop the Lucio off point there, right? That's something we can do while he's trying to come in.
I'm under attack.
Damage boost.
Let's hustle. Let's get patched up. Raising the volume.
Okay, and peeling once again. There's only one person who actually would need that, and that's Reinhardt, and he's way outside of our aura range. So amp peeling doesn't do anything there, so that's kind of the third aura, which isn't doing anything in particular. Or sorry, third amp. Okay. Let's talk real quick about mindset when it comes to playing here as Lucio. So when you're playing as Lucio, I wouldn't say you're doing. Once again, I don't think you're doing super bad with this, but I think it definitely would help to change up a little bit of mindset of play style. I'd say play style is really a better word for this. When it comes to your play style currently, it's a lot of sitting and aura botting and spamming, right? So you're kind of sitting with your team and you're just giving them your speed and your heals, and you're kind of spamming from your team, right? And then that's not necessarily the wrong a wrong thing to do, but it becomes a wrong thing to do if that's the only thing you're doing, right? Because it's just too little value. You're really not going to be able to accomplish anything. Because if you think about that in comparison to the value that like any other character provides, you can just say that most other supports can do that better. If you're just sitting there and shooting, well, okay, BAP and Zen can shoot better than you. If you're just sitting there and healing, well, BAP can do that better than you. Ana can do that better than you. Mora can do that better than you, right? Half the supports can just sit there and heal better than you. Maybe even more than half of them. Speed boost would be your unique thing, but then at the same time, we weren't really speeding it at like a ton, and also it's going to depend on like what composition you're running, if speed's going to be useful. So yeah, maybe you can say that that would be how you're helping out, but then you can sit down and think to yourself, okay, right, I'm on Lucio, and right now you're attempting to improve, you're attempting to get better. I assume that's because you want to win games, and that's because you want to climb and you want to just feel better about your gameplay. You climb the ladder in ranked by carrying. That's how you climb, and that means that you have to do more than your job. You have to do basically two people's or more job on your team, because if you're not, then you're not going to go anywhere, right? If you're just existing, if you're, and that's what like kind of the aura botting is. If you were just existing, well then how is your team ever statistically going to be doing better than the enemy team if everybody is in your lobby is always going to be silver, right? If everybody's always going to be silver, then you're always going to have a 50% win rate unless you have an impact, right? Unless you carry your game. So now you can think, right? Okay, so we do worse healing, we do worse spam damage, and we're just speeding people around. Is just speeding people around enough to carry a game?
No.
No, yeah. So now what can we do to carry the game? That's the question that I'm going to be answering, right? What can you do to have an active impact? Well, the way you and Lucio, that you as Lucio can have an active impact, is by getting a little bit more aggressive and getting your hands a little bit more dirty and going in, and not just, I don't want to make this sound like I'm saying you need to go and become a DPS. So but that's part of it here. So I'm going to elaborate on the other parts. But yes, go in and get more kills, right? We already pointed out at least 2 scenarios where we saw someone who was low that we could have gone in and killed, and we kind of just sat back a little bit, right? There are probably more than that, right, in that game. And we didn't really actively go in and try to get kills. Instead, we kind of sat with our team, right? Then, additionally, besides just trying to go in and get kills, right, we also can go for boops. We didn't really go for too many boops, and that map is probably one of the best maps in the entire game for Lucio to get boops on, because there's a giant pit on the middle point, so people are going to be walking right up next to it, boop them off really easy, right? Now, are you going to be able to boop them into well very effectively if you're sitting inside of your team?
No.
No, because typically you're sitting inside of your team, they're sitting on the other side of point. Okay, so that angle doesn't really work out too well, right? So,
Mhm.
moving around, getting to their sides, getting to their behind can probably help with that. So, going for boops off the map, going for aggressive boops on characters, just in different various different situations. So, for example, using boop to keep Reaper at bay if he's trying to get on your back line, or when he's trying to ultimate. You can boop to mess up abilities and boop to mess up ultimates and boop to get people off of your teammates, right, when they're low, right? So you can use boops and your boops and any kinds of boop team, their team into your ultimates and your abilities. Like there's a lot of various ways that you can use boop effectively besides just booping someone off the map, right? So let's
Mhm.
say you boop Reaper and while he's blossoming, well now he can't blossom your team, right? You bloop or bloop, yeah, boop their their Roadhog lands a hook, he hooks somebody, you boop him right at the very last second. Now his shot just missed, right? Or you boop him while he's hooking and his hook just missed, right? So there's a lot of various ways that you can use your boop effectively, aggressively. Whereas again, if you're sitting inside your team, are you really gonna be able to boop people very effectively?
Nope.
No. So um, just so that's the mindset shift. Now, that's not to say that you should never ever be inside your team. I'm not saying that, right? Especially if your team is in need of speed or healing, right? If they currently are all in need of of healing, go over and heal them. If they are all in need of a speed, because let's say they're coming out of spawn, then stick with them and speed them out of spawn, right? Or stick with them and speed them if they're trying to run into the enemy team, right? Those sorts of things, right? I'm not saying never be with your team, but then if they're just everyone if they're doing their own thing, or they don't need you, that's the time where maybe you can split off and go do your own thing, even if it's just for 5 seconds and then you're back to your team, right? Or 3 seconds and then you're back to your team. Like it only takes you three if we're using wall riding effectively and we're speeding around, we're just a speed demon, we're running around everywhere. It's only going to take you 3 seconds to go in, boop someone, and then back out, right? Or
Mhm.
go in, finish off a kill, and then back out, right? It's really not going to take you very long, and then therefore you're still with your team while also going and being aggressive. So one other thing I will mention, and then we'll continue here, is that as Lucio, you when it comes to all those various different things, you are what you call an opportunist character. So because you are so speedy and because you have such high survivability, you're basically kind of the equivalent to like a tracer. Um, because of all of those, you are an opportunist, and that means that you like to capitalize on opportunities. You yourself do not do a ton of high burst damage, right? You're not like a Zen, or you're not like other DPS where you're able to just go and melt somebody down instantaneously, full health to zero, right? It's
Mhm.
not how Lucio as a character works, but you're excellent at going in and finishing off kills. So let's say somebody's out of position. So you see like their Ana is all the way in the backline by herself. You see somebody's low HP. We already identified a couple times where that was the case last round, right? You see just a general opportunity, maybe you see an opportunity to get a boop, right? Or an opportunity to use your boops in the various ways that we just mentioned. Those are times where we get aggressive and we go and try to capitalize on those opportunities, right? So
Mhm.
look for those. So generally speaking, is all that making sense? Any questions on any of that just overall playstyle shift mentality?
Makes sense.
All right, sounds good. So here, coming out of spawn, amp speed, get your team there sooner.
Nothing's gonna stop me. You feel that?
Okay, amp heals being looked top left. To like note that when we're using it, we're not even really looking around to look at health bars. Like, but when we're pressing
Mhm.
it here, let's see, how many health bars can we actually actively see when we're
You
amping
feel
heals? We see
that?
one single Reinhardt, and he's down 50, 100 HP, right?
Mhm.
Maybe not amp heals needed, right, in that
For
situation.
sure.
Um, Whereas maybe, I don't know, he might want amp speed if he's trying to run into their team, right, as a Reinhardt. So that might be more helpful in this situation. So, watching out for that, that's now like 4 amps that could have been used much better, right? That could have gotten a lot more value. Now, let's see.
I got his
Trying to
back.
think here. So, so let's go continue on the topic of thinking about how we can have an impact on in during the fight. Um, we're gonna think through, okay, what are some things that we can actively do here, on the note that we were just talking about on the DPS playstyle shift, right? The opportunist playstyle. So
Mhm.
this gets into target priority. Who should you be looking at? Who should you be shooting at? Generally speaking, the hardest things to shoot, you want to shoot at the easiest things, right? Because the easiest things to shoot at are actually going to die. Whereas you try to shoot at the hardest things, they're going to be hard to kill, right? That's very simple like that. So therefore, tanks typically are going to be the hardest things to kill because they have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have armor, they have shields, they have tanking abilities. They're very tanky, right? Don't want to spend a ton of time shooting at them. That's not to say you never shoot at hard things to kill. You can shoot at them if they're low, out of position, you have an opportunity, maybe you can boop them, or maybe they're the only thing you can shoot at, right? Those are the cases
Mhm.
where you shoot at them. But if you have the option, go for something else. Actively seek out the other characters. Even among DPS and supports, there's even easier and harder things to kill. So in this current lineup, who's gonna be harder to kill, a Reaper and Ana?
Uh, Anna?
No, I'd probably say Reaper would be much harder to kill than an Ana. Reaper's going to have more health than her. Reaper has
Mhm.
self healing like Ana. He does more damage than Ana to you, and he also, on top of that, um, can wraith away from you if he needs to. So that's just an instant getaway. While he gets healed up. Ana, on the other hand, right, really her biggest threat to you is her sleep, and that's a difficult skill shot to land. If you're speeding around her and you're booping her, that becomes very difficult for Ana to actually get on top of you. Nade isn't going to flat up kill you, right? She needs to land a nade and 2 shots. Or so if Ana, for example, here is off on her own, she might be a really good character to go and kill. So like for example here, so if we're looking at their current team comp, you in your head, a good idea might be to come up with a list, a kind of a priority list, and think, okay, who should we be shooting at? Who's the hardest to the easiest, right? Or maybe even the opposite. That'd be easier, right? Who is the easiest character to kill, and then go straight down the list to the hardest character to kill. That way, you know your kind of priority in terms of who should you be looking to go for as a DPS Lucio. So on their team comp, what would you say the order would be easiest to hardest?
Oh no. um, Anna, Reaper, uh, Lucio, Diva, Roadhog?
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. Maybe you can pair them up. You don't have to be like super exact if they're really close to each other. So maybe you can just say Ana, Reaper, Lucio is in the next tier, and then the Diva Roadhog is the next tier after that. So it's just kind of the tiers rather than having to go through the entire, because that makes it slightly simpler as well, unless there's a very obvious difference between them. Um,
Mhm.
so you did pretty much get it right there. So in that situation, maybe going for Ana would be the best. So now let's identify a couple other things we can do. Okay, we can also boop, like we were thinking about how can we boop to disrupt people, right? We
Mhm.
get Reaper. He's a close range character. He has to run into your team. Maybe we can just he's trying to get close to your team. Maybe you boop him away, right? He walks in close, you boop him away. He walks in close, you boop him away, right?
Mhm.
It's gonna screw with them a little bit. Allow your team to shoot at him, right? Roadhog, we already talked about his hook, right? What we can do against that? We can, I don't know, maybe if Diva tries to swoop in, we can boop her away. Lucio tries to swoop in, we can boop him away, right? So it's just kind of getting those characters off of your teammates, which protects them. So that's how maybe we can have some more active impact as well.
Ha! Go time! Healing boom! Foot on your head first. Check this out. Ha, push off.
Okay. And peels, look at top left. Or I mean, you don't even need to look at top left. Just make sure in game you're actively paying attention to health bars. That way we can see when people actually need it and when they do not. Once again, noting that we have the lack of amp speed, right? Amp speed just not definitely going to be helpful. Or maybe for amping, trying to get away from a Reaper, right? Or we're trying to get our team in there faster.
Mhm.
Or if we're trying to swoop in on their Ana really quickly, right? That can help you swoop in on their Ana.
Feel the healing beat. Oh yeah! You feel that?
Now they got an extra character. Where would Ash go on that tier list?
Yeah, let's move it, people.
Uh, like the same tier as Ana and Reaper.
Yeah, or I mean, Reaper's the tier down from Ana. So, but I'd put I do like Ash, Ana, tier 1, right? They're easiest to
Mhm.
kill. Reaper, Lucio, tier 2, and then the tanks tier 3, right? That would just be the easy way to look at it, and then that become it. Ash might even be easier to kill than Ana, right? Ash might even be because Ash doesn't have sleep to kill you. She doesn't have nade to stop you from healing. So Ash might even be, and then she also has an easier head hitbox to hit as additionally, right? So Ash might even be an easier target to kill than Ana. Just depends on the circumstance, right? Because you're an opportunist, right?
Mhm.
Here, possibly, she's on high ground. Maybe we can swoop. Oh, she dropped, but like possibly there we can look to go and swoop up to her and get the kill on her, something like that.
F it up.
Rocket barrage incoming. Clearing the board.
Oh, time to accelerate. That was the drop.
And when you're DPSing people, don't be afraid to go swoop in and get close to them because once again, you have high speed. You don't have to stay on top of them, but being close to them is going to allow you to be slightly more accurate with your weapon. It's going to allow you to boop and melee, which is going to be a decent source of damage. Oh, excuse me, once again. It's going to be a decent source of damage. As Lucio, who doesn't have very high damage, so being able to shoot and then boop and melee just allows you to do some extra consistent damage that's easy to
You hear
land.
that?
Okay, uh-oh, unfortunately, amp speed. Noting that you can, even if you amp speed and you see, oh snap, Zarya died, right, you can always swap over to, sorry, amp heals. Even if you amp heals and you see, oh snap, Zarya died, you can always swap over to speed while you're in the middle of amping, right? And then that means that now it
You hear
transfers from
that?
doing nothing to doing something.
Check this out. Double time.
Get back.
Yeah, time to heal up. Step to this. Nothing's gonna stop.
My ultimate is charged.
See? Push on.
Nice boop. Right, that's the type of thing you can do. That's a really good way to use your boop, right? Just boop away an ultimate.
This is gonna make you feel
Right,
better.
they try to nano someone, you boop them away. They swap soldier as well, where you can boop monkey while he's trying to dive somebody. Right, that sort of idea.
Break it down. Get back.
That's good beat timing.
Some help? Oh, yeah.
Keeps your team alive in the fight longer when they're using a nano. Here, speeding around. So we are getting some good boops. We're also kind of chilling still, playing a little bit passive. We boop when he's out of range. We've done that a couple times, so just make sure we're being aware of our boop range. I believe it's somewhere around like 2 meters, maybe 3 meters, something like that. We can maybe test it when next time we go to the training range, but it's very short range. It's very close ranged, and we're sometimes using it when people are like 5+ meters away from us.
Mhm.
Let's get this back in the.
Get back.
Potentially swap over to a speed when they're blossoming, right? Why would I say maybe swap over? Wait, what? Like because maybe Reaper when he's ulting, when he's blossoming, that does a lot of damage, right? So you'd want to heal it. Why would I maybe say you would want to be on speed over healing in that case?
So that people can get away.
Yeah, because if you get away, then you take no damage at all, right? It's the
Mhm.
difference between trying to out heal the damage that he's doing, which you just can't do. Your amp healing, or even your regular healing, especially your regular healing, is not going to be able to keep up with the damage Death Blossom does, right?
Mhm.
And the same thing with a lot of other ultimates. But if you amp speed them away, well, then that just completely gets them out of danger and stops them from taking damage. And then maybe after they get away, then you can swap over to healing, right?
Mhm.
So we've done that at like in a couple scenarios where we kind of have healed when maybe speeding would be better. So just generally speaking, so far the kind of ratio between the two looks around to be I don't know, I'd maybe say you're doing like the healing like 70% of the time, speed 30% of the time, something like along those lines.
Mhm.
Um, generally speaking, it's going to be dependent situation by situation. game round by round, game by game, composition by composition, map by map. So it's going to be dependent on the specific circumstance, but generally speaking, it's around a 50-50 break where you're roughly speeding half the time, roughly healing half the time. So I would probably learn to know when should I be doing which, right? So you can use it more effectively. And then do note that sometimes healing is going to be needed more than speed. Sometimes speed is going to be needed more than healing, right? So it just depends. Here I would say you're just a little bit too high on the healing end and a little too low on the speed end.
Get back. Oh. Time to accelerate.
Oh,
Healed up.
good wall riding. Just want to keep that up kind of consistently.
Hear that?
Okay, so let's see. We see, firstly here, I see somebody who's low HP. So Monkey's really low here. That's a potential for us to look to focus him. That's an opportunity that we're identifying. We can maybe we don't have to, because he's in the middle of the open. We don't want to swoop away from our wall, but we should be looking to focus him and shoot him.
Hear that?
He goes over to that right side, and now he's really 1 HP. That's probably where we want to amp speed. Go over there, boop or melee him, right? And that's a free kill.
Push off.
We kind of run away from the bomb. You don't have to get far away from them. You just have to get around a corner, right? So here, for example, if we could get away from the bomb and kill Monkey at the same time, if we just come over here, boop him, melee him, and then what? Okay, is that bomb gonna get us if it's like around that corner? Right? No, you're completely safe. But here we kind of get like we run away from the bomb and get around like three walls, right? Until we finally think that we're safe, right? Okay, a little bit focused on their tanks here, right? Monkey's no longer, they're all beated. Right, so we kind of didn't really notice Monkey's health bar. So watching health bars in general, that's part of awareness and paying attention to your environment and surroundings. Okay, when it comes to awareness as well, I'd recommend press tab on a regular basis. I'd recommend at a very minimum once between every single fight. This gives you a lot of information. Did they swap any characters? Did we swap any characters? What ultimates do we have, etc.? So that's gonna team composition. Generally speaking, we've already discussed this when it comes to who should we be shooting at. Team comp dictates play style, right? It's also going to dictate who are you looking to focus, who are you looking to boop, what ultimates and abilities are you looking to boop, right? Your team comp's going to dictate how you play as well, so pay attention to team comps. This is, again, parts of awareness and paying attention to your surroundings. Now, let's get into application real quick. So this is something I like to go over with everybody that I coach of how do you actually look to apply some of this stuff, because maybe swapping up your whole play style seems a little vague. Like you're not really sure where to start. How do I begin? How do I actually put it into action? Because I get the concept, but it's really just I'm not sure what to do. So that's what we're here to discuss. You look to put your, for example, I'll just call it DPS playstyle, right? Where your active DPS playstyle, you put that into action the exact same way that you apply anything else that you're trying to work on, and that is that while you are playing, you're going to make sure that you're actively focusing on it. Sorry, not active. I added a negative in front of it. You want to make sure that you're actively focusing on it, right? And that means that you're not autopiloting, not just playing to play, contrary to popular belief, not just playing to win, as when you purely play to win, you end up stagnating, whereas when you play to improve, you end up actually going places and winning. What that looks like within your gameplay is you're going to make sure that while you're playing, you're thinking this to yourself in your head. We are going DPS, 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 playstyle, boop, 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 right? Giving yourself a constant reminder to think about your playstyle shift, right? And when you think about it constantly, that's going to lead to when that's how you're thinking about your game. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about that mindset shift. That's really all it is. So when you constantly remind yourself to do it, your play style is going to change. You're going to form that as a positive habit over time. Once it forms as a habit, then it's no longer needs to be worked on because it just as much, right? It becomes more natural. So then you can shift over to something else to work on. Now, I would recommend don't try to do everything all at once. That will become very overwhelming. Instead, try to do one category of things or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category. That makes sense?
Mhm.
All right.
Move to the beat.
Careful about swooping in without like an active advantage and then getting away from the wall. So like just for example, always stick near walls because it's going to give you more speed. So here we can we don't really have an active advantage to be able to fight this monkey. You don't take duels where you know that you can't win them. In a in a 1v1 against a monkey, you're not really going to be able to win that if you're just hopping on top of him and he's pretty much full HP.
Mhm.
Now, additionally, probably just whenever possible, stick near walls. So like just being an inch closer to the right side here gets us closer to a wall and allows us to wall ride rather than being in the middle of point, right?
Mhm.
Where we don't have any walls. Now, additionally, we're also re-engaging when this is an already lost fight. So, how do you tell whether or not your fight is won or lost? This gets, pretty advanced, but the basics of it is you watch kill feed. Kill feed's the top right. It tells you when you're up or down people. When you are up or down 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage or a disadvantage. That means you play either more aggressive or more passive accordingly. When you are up or down 2 to 3 people, that is a won or a lost fight. And when you've won the fight, you play extra aggressive. When you've lost the fight, you get out if you can. If
Mhm.
you cannot, you let them kill you. And then also, you don't use ultimates in won or lost fights. You also don't walk into fights that you know have already been won or lost, right? Then it's just feeding, right? You're just giving them, you're staggering yourself. You're giving them more ult charge. Are you familiar with the term staggering at all?
Uh, sort of.
Sort of, yeah, so it's very easy to define. Staggering is basically dying late. When you die
Mhm.
late, right? So what's happening here is if we die, right? Then our other 3 teammates who already died 10 seconds earlier, they're gonna respawn and they're gonna be all the way back up here by the time we respawn, right? So
Mhm.
now your teammates have the option. Either they can wait for you, in which case you've just wasted a ton of time, or they can walk in without you and then be at a disadvantage or even have lost the fight before they even walk into it, right? And
Mhm.
then that can also start stagger trains where where you die and then your teammates walk forwards and then after you die Reinhardt and the Junkrat die after that, right? So now you have teammates up here, you're here, Reinhardt and Junkrat are all the way over here, right? And then these
Mhm.
guys walk in and they die, and then you walk in and you die, and it just repeats over and over and again, right? And that's a stagger train where it just kind of keeps going, and then you never get a full team fight, and then it's not very good for you guys. So, and that
Mhm.
all starts or it can start when when we started by staggering. So here, probably just don't want to be going in when we see it's already lost.
Move to the
When
beat.
it's a 6v3, right? This is an already lost fight that we're engaging in.
Move to the
So
beat.
so we were able to get out, probably do want to get out here, just fully back up. But notice that we're going back in, kind of we're re-engaging when it's a 6v2.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we're coming back in and notice that they went in and they engaged, your teammates went in and engaged when you were down 2 people who were back in spawn. So it was a 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and it might have even been 6. I don't know when Reaper died. Um, so they ended up killing Reaper, but they're still at a disadvantage because of the fact that we ended up staggering, right? Which just
Mhm.
means that they're more likely to lose that fight. Okay, we come in. Okay, that's good. Maybe you could have amped speed when you're coming back from spawn because if you press it the moment you exit the gates here, right? You press it like right
Get
now.
started.
Okay, by the time you get there, which is going to take you, I don't know, even if you're speeding back, it's going to take you 6 seconds, something like that, right? By the time you get
Mhm.
there, the cooldown's already on half, right? So you'll basically, and you might not really need it immediately, and it's good. It's better that you get there sooner because then you're able to heal and and boop and have an impact sooner, right? So, and that also gets your junk right there sooner. So, which is more worth it? Amping heals on a whole team that doesn't really need an amp heals, or getting 2 teammates back to the fight sooner?
Back to the fight.
Yeah, I'd probably say getting your teammates back to the fight sooner is probably going to be a little bit more helpful for you guys. Because then also just note when we do swoop in here that we do amp peels. Notice that we amp peels when we're a little far away here. Now you can't. Are you aware of how large your aura is?
Not over.
Not really. All right. So then we can go over that real quick. But they're large amount of them are out of our aura. So you can actually see your aura. For some reason, it doesn't display it in the replay, but you can actually see your aura. You see that?
Yeah.
So that shows your aura. That is. Let's go see if we can measure that.
Check this out.
That looks like it is approximately. Looks like it's a little bit past 10 meters, so it's like 11 meters or so, right? In a circle around you. So watch that. Make sure people are within it. So that means that these guys are within my aura. They're within it. They're within it. They're within it. No, they're not. Right. So it's a pretty small aura. 11 meters isn't that far. So you have to be near your team. Additionally, another helpful thing that I just remembered to mention, look at the number underneath your crosshair. That displays how many people are currently in your aura. So 1, 2, 3. Now if I come over here, it's going to be 0 because they're out of my line of sight. Also noting that aura is line of sight based. So if there's a wall in between us, they don't get it. Now 2 people, right? Now 3 people, right? So that'll tell you how many people you have in your aura. Noting that also it like has height. I'm not sure actually how high the height is on it. So we were able to see 2 people from there. Can we still get 2 people? No. So it looks like it's maybe like a circle around you or so. Maybe, or I don't know if it's a circle or if it's a cone or a. I'm missing the word I'm trying to go for. Cylinder.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cylinder.
Yeah. So noting that. Okay. So now also boop range. Boop range. Can we do it from 5 meters away? Okay. It actually is 5 meters away. I was thinking it was slightly closer. Is it 6 meters? 6 meters. Okay. Let's see from back here. This is all right. So it appears as if it can go like approximately 6 meters, right, on your range. So make sure that you're within 6 meters. I would say that it was kind of more like we were trying to boot people from like 8 meters or 10 meters or so, right? Like sometimes we'd try to boot people from like back here, and they're just out of range. Melee is going to be like probably like within 3 meters, something like that, right? So make sure you're just getting within range of that. So when you're going in and DPSing people, add in boops and melees so you can boop when you're kind of swooping in on people. That's gonna allow you to do more consistent, easy damage. So you don't have to do it constantly, but we can kind of swoop in here, wall right around, boop melee. Okay, shoot him more melee, right? Boop when it comes back up. Right, that way you're able to do a little bit extra consistent damage. Okay, so we got 2 minutes left to discuss stuff. Why don't we just hop into the end credit stuff, and then if we have some extra time, we can use it. So we're going to now do a quick review, go over everything we talked about, and then after that, we're going to go over the main points and then wrap up from there. Real quick though, before we do that, are you aware of the fact that your ultimate drags around corners, or you can drag your ultimate around corners?
No.
Do you know what I mean by that? Okay, so look,
No.
I'm going to beat right here, and then right after my beat for the next like second or so, I can go around the corner and my team will still get it. So I'm going to beat, drag it, and then they still get it, right? I think that lasts a second to a second and a half or so, right? So note that even if like let's say for example, like you beat and then you see like over there your teammates around the corner and you're like, oh snap, I just beat it, I want to get them to have it. You just move to the side real quick and they get it, right? So that's something else to note with your beat. You can get some more if people are on the corner, you can always drag it, right? That sort of thing. Trying to think if there's any other techie things that I can talk about. Make sure that you have backwards wall riding enabled in settings. So if you go over to I don't know if you've touched Lucio settings at all.
Yeah, I heard about that recently, and I was confused why it was like automatically off. But
Yeah, it is weird that it's automatically off, but turn it on. Um, I like hold to crossfade, which means that if by default it's on healing and then to go to speed I hold it down and then it swaps back rather than me clicking it. I think that offers for faster swaps between I don't know. I forget about all the benefits. I think it's like things like if you get stunned it'll automatically convert to healing, right? So that means that like if you get slept you start healing yourself up, right? Or things like that. And then additionally, I've just gotten into the habit of it. And then finally, the last one, I don't fully remember what this one is. Wall jump on release. Apparently I have that on. I don't remember what that does fully. I think that helps wall riding slightly. I don't really recall what it does though. All right. So review, boop, look to actively boop people rather than just kind of passively sitting there, right? Make sure that's part of your ability to carry and do things. It's how you get value on Lucio. Go for boops off the map. Go for boops on people's abilities and ultimates. Go for boops to disrupt people, to get them confused, to boop people into your team, to boop people into your team's abilities and ultimates, to boop people when to just get them away from your team, etc. Right? There's a lot. It's a lot of different uses, right? Just look to actively use it rather than just kind of passively. Once in a while I'm gonna boop someone, right? You also use it to do consistent damage when you're on top of somebody. Amps. Make sure that when you're amp healing, that's actually people are needing it, right? They should be in danger. There's a difference between somebody being in danger and being low. I can be low HP and sitting right here and be perfectly safe. I can be in danger and be full HP right here inside of their team. But if I'm full HP, then I don't need healing, right? So they should be low and in danger when you're amp healing. Not one or not the other. And then also you can use it if a bunch of people need it or someone needs burst healing, etc. Right? But there's a lot of times where there's probably, I don't know, like 5 or so, 5 maybe 6 like amps that we just kind of wasted that didn't do very much. Additionally, amp speed when you're trying to go from place to place. Do it when you're walking out of spawn. Look how much faster, right, I can go when I'm amping speed. And like this would kind of look like our gameplay sometimes, where we would kind of just like hop around. We'd be on speed. We'd be on healing, right? We just kind of hop around, decently fast, but still a little bit slow. Whereas if I amp speed and swap over to speed, look how much faster I'm actually traveling from place to place. So you just up your speed, up your ability to go and do things, and therefore actually do things. Heal auras, heal when needed, speed. Anytime you or your team is trying to go anywhere. So right, if you're just wall riding for a second to go from there to here, then we go to speed, and then we swap back to heal. Right, we're just crossing the gap. Now we're back on healing. Right, that sort of idea. Right. Then also just generally speaking, on healing a little too much, on speed a little too little, right? So 50%, like 50% split on both of them, right, is roughly how it should be, and then maybe it'll change game to game and situation to situation. I'm going to include wall riding within this since it's like your passive. Even though it's not really an ability, I'm just going to include it within this category. Wall riding, just make sure that we're wall riding more, right? That way we're able to have more speed, more survivability. Stay on speed while you're wall riding, unless you're like really low or your teammate's really low. So you can wall ride without speed. Just most of the time when you're wall riding, generally use speed. Hold W, spam jump, aim around, look around with your camera. That's going to allow you to actually move more effectively and not get kind of stuck and cling to walls. And then that seems to be about it. With that, overall, that whole category went to a... I'm trying to think. I would say low end of a medium-high priority for you to work on. Sorry if that sounded complicated. So, medium-high priority for you to work on, but the lower end of that. Moving on, ultimate usage. Honestly, not too bad. I only saw a couple though. Maybe could, I see more in the future. But for the current moment, nothing I saw that was too bad with it. Remember, you can drag it. Besides that, I didn't see any situations where you used it poorly. And you didn't hold on to it, which is good. So ultimate usage, low priority. Moving on, mechanics. play style, right? Change up to an opportunist DPS play style, right? Look for opportunities to go in, do things, get kills. Look to DPS more. Look for people who are low, out of position, right? Try to swoop in and actually have an impact and participate rather than just kind of sitting there, right? We can remember, like, it doesn't have to be like, I don't know, so let's say our team's sitting here, right, and the enemy team's there. We don't have to be sitting with them. Instead of sitting with them constantly, maybe we just are looking and we see, oh snap, that guy's 1 HP, I'm going to swoop in for a second, finish off the kill, back up to my team, right? That only took me 3 seconds, right? I see someone over here who's low, I'm going to speed over here real quick, duel them, back to my team, right? Go in for a boop, back to my team, right? Besides that, make sure you have ammo, reloading, time you're not doing anything. Trying to think if there's anything else that we talked about. Target priority, right? Shoot at the easiest things to kill, not the hardest things to kill. Come up with that target priority list in your head. You can make them into tiers if they're like just really close to each other, and then shoot at the easiest things to kill unless you see opportunities, or you can't really, unless you don't have a choice, right? To shoot at them. Overall, that all probably went to a higher end of a medium, possibly a medium high priority. Somewhere along those lines. Maybe I'll say medium high. I'll say lower end of a medium high, same as the abilities. Okay. Positioning. Honestly, I don't think we actually talked a ton about positioning. Positioning I'd stay near walls, right? Besides that, positioning, it probably still is a thing. It just when you're playing Lucio, who's such a fast character, it kind of puts a band-aid over poor positioning, because you can move around really fast, and then therefore you don't get caught out for poor positioning. Go stand, if you're trying to do things, go stand on, like, their behind. If you're trying to get, like, boops, for example, go stand to their side or behind, or sit inside of your team. Get closer to them, make sure you're watching your range on some of your abilities. Overall, low to medium, maybe lower end of low to medium, something like that. And then finally, awareness. Pay attention to your health bar. Pay attention to your teammates' health bars. Pay attention to their danger levels. Pay attention to enemies' health bars. Health bars seem to be a reoccurring thing. Pay attention to all those. Pay attention to tab. Press in between every single fight. It's going to give you a lot of info. Team comps dictate your play style. Think about how that works. And then just generally pay attention to your surroundings, keep your ears open, listen. Overall, that was probably like a medium priority. So to put that all in order, I'd probably say number 1 came out to ability usage. Number 2 came out to the play style and mechanics. Number 3 came out to awareness. 4 came to your positioning, but kind of not really. And then ult usage, not really currently needed. Not to say it will not resurface in the future, because note that it just means that, I guess, sorry, in the future it might resurface because of the fact that the higher you go, the higher there's a higher standard for your ultimate usage, and there's also they're gonna be able to know how to counteract your ultimate, and there's going to be more advanced techs and techniques to do with it. So not to say that it wouldn't ever resurface in the future, but for the current moment, your current skill level, whatever, it's a low. Right? Any questions?
I don't think so.
All right. So